What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Commander's Lair. This is part 2 or episode 2 of my underrated EDH cards. So this is basically, commander cards that I think that should be seeing more play, or you should be considering for certain decks that I just think are interesting at least to consider and to kind of look at because they can be powerful in their own right or in the right spot. And I just think there should be more decks than they're put in. Also just some of my pet cards that I just think are really fun to play and, good to, just kind of get out in the format. Let me know what you guys think of these videos, just before we get into it, because I'm not gonna lie, the last one didn't do too well. So if you guys don't like these videos as much, let me know and I won't make as many of them. But otherwise, let's just get straight into it with the first card. So that's going to be Abbeyance. It's 1 and a white for an instant, and until end of turn, target player cannot play instants, interrupts, sorceries, or abilities that require an activation cost. So basically, interrupts are instants and kind of instant speed abilities. And I just think it's not bad. So silence obviously is a lot better than this, completely shuts people down. But it obviously does have that card draw tacked onto it. 2 mana, draw 1 in white. I think white card draw honestly isn't even that bad. I think white has good card draw. Especially now after the most recent set, if you guys have seen the Baldur's Gate spoilers. But just 2 mana to draw and kind of shut your players off a bit, kind of like a bit of a Dromoka effect, maybe even a backup in a Dromoka deck, or just kind of any kind of Boros deck where you're playing with combat a lot, maybe even Mardu decks. It can just be nice to kind of shut your opponents out from doing anything to your board for a bit and just make sure that you're kind of safe. Moving on to number 2, we have Compost. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos that I've made. Definitely turn in a couple decks, just a really solid card draw effect in green. So it's 1 and a green for the enchantment. Whenever a black card is put into opponent's graveyard, you may draw a card. So people like to stray away from these color-specific cards, but especially with cards like Compost, it's such a cheap investment, and you can throw it if you need to, discard it, whatever. You just not play it. It's not the end of the world. If an Enchantress deck, it counts as a trigger for an Enchantress effect. But otherwise, basically, people play black a lot in Commander. The Command Zone did a stats video a couple of years ago now, I think, and black was the most popular color. It was the most likely to win. I think it was the most popular as well. I know I love black. Most of my decks are black. I play a lot of black decks. My format does it, or my friend group does as well. So my meta, there's lots of black decks. This card, churns out cards every single game. It's just like a pack of. It's never gonna get targeted by removal because no one cares about it that much. But honestly, pretty much every game I'm probably drawing like, I don't know, 10 plus cards with this over the course of the game, maybe a little less, but it's generally a solid card worth considering, especially if you just kind of think about your meta and think if this might work. So next we have a funny one. It's Charm Pendant. So this is the there's a rules text on this is pretty important. So it's 4 generic for an artifact. It has tap, put the top card of your library into your graveyard. For each color mana in mana symbol in that card's mana cost, add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool. Play this ability anytime you can play an instance, just instant speed, obviously, like any other artifact. I'm going to read the rules text. So it says, for example, if the card's mana cost is 3 generic and then blue, blue, black, you get blue, blue, black in your mana pool. So this adds colored mana, and it can add multiple types of colored mana. So this is really useful in multicolored decks, obviously. If you were a Exile Progenitus, you would get like 10 mana of all different colors. That's obviously a bit of a best case scenario. So if it's a 4 mana rock, which we don't even talk about in the format, obviously 3 mana rocks are being edged out a bit, but if you're playing casual, this is definitely playable. Technically it mills you as well if you're looking for that in a mill deck, but just in a kind of a big mana deck, if something has 4 pips or 3 pips, tapping to add 3 or 4 colored mana is honestly really good, especially, for 4 mana it's not even a bad rate, it's just a solid card. Probably, maybe, it definitely fits better in big mana decks. Obviously the rules text doesn't count, it doesn't have to be in a Dimir deck. You could play this in mono green, kind of big mana deck. I think this would fit in really well, or maybe even some kind of a mill deck if, you're really looking for that. So next we have Avenging Druid. Here in that name you probably think of Hermit Druid. It's sort of similar, a lot less powerful though. So it's 2 and a green for a 1/3 summon Avenging Druid, so it's a creature druid. When it deals damage to an opponent, you reveal cards from your library until you reveal a land card, put that into the battle, into play, and then put all the revealed cards into your graveyard. So importantly, this is ramp. Every time it connects, you get a land. It is mill as well, so you mill however many cards that aren't lands, so it's good in the mill deck, again, just like Charm Pendant. And interestingly, and this probably the biggest thing to note is that it's not basic land, it's any land. So if you play all these non-basics, this doesn't go in the Hermit Druid deck, because if you play lots of non-basics, you'll also trigger off that. And you do have to get it in for damage, so it's kind of also a bit of a risky. So maybe you're playing in a deck that kind of plays around with unblockable. This is a good ramp card, maybe. I wouldn't really play this as much as a mill card. Definitely would go on mill deck, so in any kind of graveyard deck, I think this is probably playable, especially if you've got a way to get through the damage, because it mills and it ramps you, which is just 2 good effects in a mill deck. Next up we have Desperate Gambit. So this is a red mana for an instant. Flip the coin, target opponent calls heads or tails while the coin is in the air. If you win the flip, you double the damage you control, otherwise prevent all damage. So dealt by 1 creature, just 1 source, otherwise prevent all that damage. And so this is obviously very hit or miss. You know, in the name, it's literally 50-50. So you flip a coin, and so if you win, you double the damage, and if you lose, half the damage. So it has to be a source you control, so you can't play it on an opponent's creature. You can play it on yours though, so just if, you know, if you have a massive, you know, creature like a Corvold, say, and you're swinging out, you can double the damage on that, hopefully. Obviously this works in a coin flip deck really well, because, you know, oftentimes you can manipulate the coin flip, get multiple results, or kind of whatever like that. Otherwise, you know, it works out well on my Lord of Tressorhorn deck, because, you know, generally that guy gets pretty big. You know, I can get him to, he's a 10-10, right? So if I, you know, give him plus 2+2 or something, is a 12-12. He can two-shot kill someone, and if I flip this, if I lose, you know, if I use the flip, right, the person doesn't die. And if I played the card, if I didn't play Desperate Gambit, they wouldn't have died either way. But if I play Desperate Gambit, it gives me like a 50-50 chance of killing a player. Whereas if I didn't play it, I would have a 0 chance of killing them. So just, I think in the right instances, it's honestly not bad to take that chance. You know, if you are either way not going to kill them, then it's not the end of the world. But if you are 100% going to kill them, or, you know, if you win the flip, then it can definitely be a really good card to play, especially in some of those Voltron themes. I think it's the best. Next up, we have Fumbles. This is definitely a newer card. It's from Battle Bond, but I think it's really good. So it's 1 and a blue for an instant. Return target creature that's on its hand. You gain control of all auras and equipment that were attached to it, then attach it to another creature. So that can obviously target your own creatures. So probably what you're going to be doing. So this is technically a removal spell. It's instant speed, bounce. So, you know, if someone's attacking you with a big creature, you could bounce it, and obviously, you know, there's more of a tempo loss for them, even if it has no auras and equipment. So it's still never a dead card. You can obviously always use it on something. You can target your own creatures as well if you need an ETB effect, if that's really what you need. Otherwise, I play in a meta where there's lots of people using Voltron decks, you know, Boros Voltron with lots of instants and so lots of enchantments and auras. So getting all of those would just be insane. 2 mana, you could get, you know, 15 plus mana worth of value. Just, you know, even if you get one, you know, enchantment like an Explorer Scope or something, it's still worth it. You know, like it's a really, really useful card that has implications for lots of different, you know, kind of time frames and lots of different examples, and is literally never a dead card. So it's definitely worth looking for a removal spell in a blue package. So next we have Dingus Stuff. So bit of a funny name. It's 4 generic for an artifact. Whenever a creature is put into the graveyard, Dingus Stuff deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. So it's pretty simple. You play this in a deck that doesn't have lots of creatures. So play this in any Spellslinger deck. I think it's definitely a really good fit. I've played it in 3 or 4 of my Spellslinger decks. You know, a couple of Azorius decks, and then I think 2 Izzet decks. It's just really useful for pinging players, because if you have max 1 creature on the board and someone board wipes, you're losing, you know, 2 life. But then, so, you know, your other opponent might lose 8 life, the other one might lose 12, the other one might lose, you know, like, let's say like 20 or something, right? It's not unbelievable that someone has 10 creatures on the board. It's not too hard to do in Commando. It's also a good way to stop an infinite combo. If someone gets infinite creatures and you kill them all, they literally lose the game. So it's really good in that way as well. Basically, it's just really useful in any kind of non-creature deck. It's definitely worth considering, because, you know, you're just always gonna have better of advantage than your opponents are pretty much like 99% of the time. So coming up next, we have Reprocess. It's 2 black for a sorcery. Sacrifice any number of artifacts, creatures, and/or lands, and draw a card for each one sacrificed this way. So sadly, this card has gone up in price since I compiled this list, so this is a bit more expensive, and I try to keep these suggestions budget. But it's still a really good card. It's still not too expensive. It's definitely worth picking up, especially, you know, the right deck. So you can turn artifacts, creatures, and lands into draws. So in a Lord Windgrave's deck, you can sacrifice all your lands, draw a card for each of them, get all the other, you know, land trick dying effects, maybe get them all back, you know, Crucible World, replay them. You know, anything like that, you can get them out of the graveyard. Something like that is really useful as well. You know, obviously the drawing effect's really useful. Sacrifice any number of creatures. So if you have, you know, a couple of 1/1s, you can sacrifice them all, draw cards. So any kind of sacrifice deck, and literally any deck where you're sacrificing, you know, Mazarek, anything like that, it's definitely worth playing. I guess Artifact Center, you can play this in Breya, or something like that, where you're making lots of artifact tokens and you can sack them all. Or whether, I think this is really interesting, is in a treasure deck. So obviously, when I first found this card, treasures were barely even a thing, but by now it's really popular. So any deck like this, Ognis is the new black one. So Jund has a really, really heavy artifact theme in the in New Capenna, and just recently all colors have been getting lots of artifacts besides white. And so literally any artifact deck or any treasure deck, you can turn all for 4 mana. You can turn every single one of your treasures into a card. So it's just really crazy in that deck because you're making so many treasures. I think it just works really well. It slots into so many sacrifice decks. I think this is worth considering for literally any sacrifice deck, and especially if those artifact decks. It's just really an underplayed card that I think would be very interesting to play in those because it would be just really powerful. Next is Blossoming Wreath, so it's just 1 green mana for instant, gain life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So where I play this is in I've played this in 2 decks, so I've played this in the life gain deck, and I've played this in a graveyard deck. So 1 green mana, it's really low obviously, it's no investment basically, instant speed, you can play this at any time, so if you're about to die you can play it to save yourself. So for 1 mana, potentially gaining, mediocre amount would be like 5, say, 5, 6 life. For 1 mana is obviously really useful because, white's kind of set the standard for 1 mana being up to 4 life, I think, so again, anything above that is, really good, especially because we're not in white. And then additionally, just if you're playing a graveyard deck, you're not trying to gain life, but it's better to have more life than less. Um, as a player that plays lots of graveyard decks, I can say the amount of times that I've had heaps of creature cards in my graveyard, just getting payoffs off that is really useful. So gaining, 10 to 20 life, it's never a bad thing. And for 1 mana, it's definitely worth it, considering it, especially graveyard decks. I think it's a really good fit in those. And the last card we have is Animal Magnetism. It's 4 and a green for a sorcery. For the top 5 cards of your library, an opponent chooses a creature card from among them, put that card into play, and the rest in your graveyard. So again, this card mills technically. It's 5 mana, it is a sorcery, so it's a big investment. Only sorcery speed isn't great, but it mills 4 cards, so 5 mana mill 4 cards in green isn't terrible. Opponent has to choose for you. So you can do this in a political way, obviously, just like anything else. Asking, oh, we need to stop this person. Can you pick that, or can you do this? Or that acidic slime kills that. Can you make sure you pick that for me, please? Anything like that. This was in my Slowgurk deck because there's not too many creatures, but getting a creature for free, or if they mill 4 lands, get your Slowgurk bigger. It works like that, really well like that as well. But otherwise, basically, if all your deck is big creatures, say they've got the top 5 cards and there's 2 Eldrazi in there, either way they're picking something bad. A Void Winnow is going to mess them up. So pretty much no matter what you do, make sure you play this in a big creature deck, big mana. So no matter what, you're getting lots of value of this, and you're turning 5 mana into like a 10/10 creature or something. So that'll do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about these videos, because as I mentioned in the intro, these videos have been getting less views, so I wasn't sure if I'd do another one, but I have got lots of cards loaded up. I've got a file of like 40-50 cards already. I've got way more that I could do as well. So if you guys want to see this, I can just quick fire get heaps of these videos out, because there's so many cards that I want to share with everyone, because it's just so fun looking at these underrated cards and letting people know where you might want to play them or what they possibly could do. Just getting it out there, because these are my favorite kinds of cards. Otherwise, just let me know what you think. Generally, I've seen other people do similar things, but obviously being a budget channel, I'm focusing on the budgeted cards, making sure that I get the cheapest cards. So pretty much all these cards, besides reprocess, which is a couple dollars, I think these are all under $1. If I'm not mistaken, which so really easy to pick up. So if you're just getting in order, add this on the end. See how it goes in your decks. But anyway, basically, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the second episode of this. If you did, make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe, and leave a comment letting me know what you'd like to see next, whether it be another video like this or just a different deck take on a certain commander. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching.